Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
Good afternoon and welcome to your MTN Noon News for this Thursday. I'm Hailey Monaco. In continuing health news, an infectious disease that had been halted in the United States is making a comeback this year. Nearly 1,600 cases of the measles have been reported so far this year, as well as 3 deaths. And with more on what we've seen in Yellowstone County and some important advice about the upcoming flu season, here's our Matt Carmack.
Cases of the measles haven't been this high since the 1990s.
Montana this year has had 32 cases.
But the measles isn't just a Montana issue. It's across the country.
The number of cases of measles this year is really uncommon.
It typically begins with flu-like symptoms, coughing, a fever, runny nose. But it can quickly develop into that iconic rash on the face, neck, and limbs.
Certainly, most parents will either come in, bring their child in because of the high fever, because of some concern, or the rash.
In Yellowstone County so far, we've seen 4 cases this year, a number that Dr. Megan Littlefield, the chief medical officer at Riverstone Health, hasn't seen in decades.
So in the year 2000, we were really close to eradicating measles entirely. And now that's why this year it's so surprising that we've seen such a significant uptick.
Medical professionals in Montana say the MMR vaccine is the most effective way to keep yourself safe from the measles this upcoming cold and flu season.
In general, we're seeing a decreased vaccination rate.
1 dose is about 93% effective in preventing measles. Second dose was about 97%.
Dr. Neil Koo, an infectious disease specialist at Billings Clinic, says the public perception of vaccines has changed in the last few years. For instance, the CDC reports that almost 95% of kindergartners were vaccinated in 2011. Now that number has dropped to 92.5%. In addition, earlier this month, President Donald Trump and acting director of the CDC, Jim O'Neill, discussed dividing the MMR vaccine into 3 separate shots.
I'm unaware of any study that substantiate that practice. One of the main reasons for to have these combination vaccines is just to simplify the process because, instead of having 3 different shots, you just have 1.
Along with vaccinations, as we enter into this cold weather season, Dr. Littlefield and Dr. Koo encourage people to practice good hygiene.
Stay home when you're sick and keep your kids home when they're sick so that we're not spreading viruses. And, wash your hands regularly and cover your coughs and sneezes.
In Billings, Matt Carmack, MTN News.
And here's your leading look at other top stories from across the state. Custer County firefighters say a crash involving a semi hauling dozens of cattle blocked a road, with first responders on scene from last night and well into this morning. This is the area where crews say the semi-truck tipped over, closing Gary Owen Road just before midnight outside of Miles City. Crews do say that all cattle involved in the wreck were safely offloaded and transported from the scene, but officials say at the time of the crash, the closure was expected to continue for several hours. 2 sisters are each facing charges of animal cruelty in Yellowstone County District Court in connection with a seizure of more than 40 malnourished dogs from a shepherd home. Katie Milken and Rebecca Collins each pleaded not guilty to all charges, which includes 12 felonies and 2 misdemeanors. Deputies say the case stems from a September complaint after someone told them that they bought a Newfoundland dog in poor health from the breeder. As the government shutdown stretches beyond its 2nd week, airports across the country are still buzzing with travelers. But one video of the Department of Homeland Security is raising questions about politics and public information. MTN's Megan Elaine takes us to the Bozeman Yellowstone International Airport to see what flyers are actually seeing.
2 weeks into the government shutdown, and airports across the country are still seeing a lot of foot traffic, especially here in Bozeman during the shoulder season. One thing that travelers are not seeing, this video. That's former South Dakota Governor, current DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, in a video shared by the Department of Homeland Security addressing how the shutdown could impact airport operations and travel safety. For Scott, who made a pit stop in Montana while traveling back to San Francisco from overseas.
Airports have seemed relatively the same to me.
A sentiment shared by many travelers I spoke with, including Steve from New York, who says even with a slight layover delay,
but we still got here on time, so no complaints.
Brian Springer with the airport says most delays aren't political. They're weather related.
Most of the delays that we've seen have been actually weather related more than shutdown related to this point.
And while travelers like Steve and Scott haven't seen the DHS video playing at airports,
Democrats in Congress refuse to fund the federal government. And because of this, many of our operations are impacted.
Springer says Bozeman Yellowstone International, like many airports nationwide, is not airing the video.
We actually have very few monitors in the airport, and those that we do are for flight information display.
He adds the airport is following the Hatch Act, passed in 1939 to keep federal programs nonpartisan, and sticking to its strict advertising policy.
Political ads or political messages of any type are prohibited.
Steve says that doesn't come as a surprise.
Oh, I could see these guys maybe staying neutral, you know. In New York, it's a given. That's just how it is.
And for Scott, back from Europe, it's a different kind of culture shock.
Distaste you feel when you come back to America from overseas is one, that we only have a two-party system, and that the two parties only seem to be interested in trying to blame each other for whatever's going wrong.
The airport's bottom line?
We want to make the experience at the airport neutral and unbiased and also enjoyable.
In Bozeman, Megan Elaine, MTN News.
The Climate Prediction Center of the National Weather Service came out with their winter outlook for the months of December, January, February. How does the winter shape up? Warmer than average across the southern tier of the country. Probably typical temperatures through the midsection, but for us, it's been leaning towards colder than average temperatures for us, at least tipping that direction. The stronger signal, though, comes if we start to take a look at the moisture, definitely leaning towards wetter than average across the northern portion of the country. That could mean above average snowfall, especially you see this bullseye right over western and central Montana. 40 to 50% chance of more moisture than we would typically see. That means that there's about a 33% chance of an average winter as far as snowfall, but only leading less than 20% chance of a drier than average winter. Short-term forecast details coming up.
A federal judge in Missoula has dismissed a lawsuit from youth plaintiffs challenging the Trump administration's energy policies. MTN senior political reporter Jonathan Ambarian has a closer look at what's behind the decision and what could be next.
U.S. District Judge Dana Christensen said the 22 plaintiffs in the case Lighthizer versus Trump had legitimate concerns about the environmental impacts of the federal government's policies, but he didn't believe he had the jurisdiction to give them the relief they were looking for. Last month, Christensen held a 2-day hearing on the case in Missoula. The plaintiffs range in age from 7 to 25 and live in 5 states, including Montana. They wanted to block 3 of President Donald Trump's executive orders aimed at unleashing energy development. They argued increased fossil fuel development would directly harm them. Federal attorneys argued it would be overreach for a judge to stop the government from reconsidering a previous administration's policies. In the end, Christensen ruled the plaintiffs had demonstrated climate change and fossil fuel impacts were a health emergency. But he said if he blocked the orders, the court would have to review hundreds of administration actions to see if they complied with the injunction, and that would be, quote, an unworkable request. The law firm representing the plaintiffs said they'll appeal the decision to a higher court. They said, quote, courts cannot offer more protection to fossil fuel companies seeking to preserve their profits than to young Americans seeking to preserve their rights. 15 of the 22 plaintiffs are from Montana, and 10 of them were also plaintiffs in the held climate lawsuit, in which they successfully challenged Montana's greenhouse gas policies in the state court system. In that case, they were able to point to the Montana Constitution's guarantee of a clean and healthful environment, and that's a specific protection that's not in the U.S. Constitution. In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
In Montana, water is as valuable as gold, and a new law could help neighbors share it through short-term leases. Now, it's a rare deal that brought ranchers and lawmakers together, and it could be a win for places like the Crazy Mountain Ranch, who are now buying water to irrigate its land. In this afternoon's Montana Ag Report, Andrea Lutz takes us to how it works and who it benefits.
When the water's flowing,
it's a limited commodity.
Montana thrives.
It's top of mind for everyone in our state.
But managing it takes cooperation.
As the saying goes, whiskey is for drinking and water is for fighting.
Now, a new way to ease those battles. This October, a Montana law took effect, allowing temporary leasing of water rights.
People will fight over water, and I think that this bill, I think of it as a good neighbor bill, and it's one that allows people who hold a water right to help out their neighbor.
Billings lawmaker Sue Vinton says the measure protects existing rights while meeting a growing demand.
You know, it was very gratifying that it had such a collaboration behind it to get it passed.
It's a newer version of a bill created originally to supply water to the Bakken oil fields, which sunset in 2019.
We certainly are in a period of sort of successive drought.
That demand rising with every dry year.
It feels like every year seems to be at a historic low, and at the same time experiencing increased demand for the use of water.
Clayton Elliott with Trout Unlimited says it comes at a time when every drop counts. So water users from across the spectrum came together to craft the details, allowing temporary leases of up to 40 days a year for 5 years within a 10-year span.
It might be from one ag producer to another ag producer. It might be for a short-term industrial need. It could be a variety of things.
One example, the Crazy Mountain Ranch near Clyde Park, which has been buying municipal water to keep its golf course green.
I think that there will be a lot of water users that see this as a usable tool to meet their needs, and will entities like Crazy Mountain Ranch or the Absorca Energy, which is that pumped hydro storage facility in Martinsdale, see an opportunity in this law? I'm sure that they will.
This year, the ranch says it won't lease under the new law. Instead, it's evaluating how short-term leases could help down the road.
We're having tremendous challenges around water flow and fish populations. We saw this as a tool that would both help support agriculture and put water in stream for fish at those critical periods.
A vital conversation about the future of water in Montana, one that could help keep our taps, crops, and communities running for generations to come.
And I think that this law checks all of those boxes.
In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.